Hey everybody, welcome back and thanks for watching a new video. This one is going to be on regular expressions. So regular expressions are something that have been around for ages, and I find that a lot of people are a little bit hesitant to learn sometimes because they're a bit arcane. And when you first start playing around with them, it's a kind of just a bunch to take in. But out of all the skills that I've learned in technology, regular expressions are one of the most, value for money that I've ever gotten. Right. So obviously I didn't pay, but in terms of time, right. So value for time that I've ever gotten in terms of where to go put my effort and interest. Regular expressions, despite the little bit of a burden, will pay dividends for the rest of your career if you learn them, because they're going to be around no matter what you do, whether you're a DBA, whether you're a programmer, whether you're a sysadmin or sysengineer. If you're dealing with text in any way, regular expressions are phenomenally useful. So we're not going to go through a full explanation of regular expressions, right? That would take a really long time. And maybe so that's something that I'll do in a course down the road. But what I want to go do is basically talk about what they are and show you where you can get more information on them. Excuse me. And really, really cool tools that are available to make your life way easier when it comes to learning regular expressions. Excuse me. Sorry about the coughing. I've had a number of different weeks in a row lecturing all day, so my voice is a little bit harsh. So let's jump over to my main display, and we'll pull up the wonderful XKCD comic from Randall Munroe on regular expressions. So if you haven't seen XKCD before, you should obviously go do that. Just pause the video, go over, and look at the great comics. They're all technical, based on Unixy stuff, math stuff, programming stuff, things like that, and they're great. So basically, it's going through the superhero-like abilities of learning regular expressions. And as sort of a side note, there's two kind of flavors. There's more than that, but there's two main flavors of regular expressions. There's POSIX, or sort of the GNU traditional style regular expressions, and then there's PCRE, which is Perl compatible regular expressions. And so one, I'm not going to get into the argument of why you should use Perl. I like it. You don't have to go use it. I think from a career standpoint, if you're learning how to program for the first time, Python is probably a better bet just because of its marketability. But one of the things that's useful is that Perl was written, with Regex first and forefront in the language. Like in most other languages, you need to import regular expressions. Regular expressions are part of Perl by default. You don't need to mess around with them. So we're going to go ahead and look at these. We're going to talk about the different kind of regular expressions and kind of go from there. So the first thing I wanted to go do was just pull up a info page. Now, normally I am not a huge fan of info pages. I much prefer man pages. They're simpler. But when it comes to man pages, I've got the GREP man page up here. And hopefully this is not too tiny for you guys to go ahead and see. And go change the settings here because I'm kind of being a little bit weird with how I do everything today. Go bump this up to 24 point, apply that. So, all right. So this is the GNU info page for GREP. And GREP is useful. Why is that being weird? Not showing the whole thing. Let me go fix that. There we go. So this is the info page. Typically I like man pages because I'm not an Emacs person and the jumping around stuff. But one of the things about info pages is they have links in them because it's Emacs like, and you can go ahead and navigate through those links. So for something like this on the GREP man page, which is the GNU Regular Expression Program, thus a good place to look for Regex, it will take you through basically all the different pieces of this. So what we can go to is you can go to the introduction, and then basically it will take you through the different sections. So, you can go back, the previous kind of part of this, and we can go to the regular expressions themselves. So you can hop around in here and not only go ahead and sort of, look at the program options and things like that, but you can actually go look at the regular expressions. So when we get to the regular expressions, they're going to have a couple different pieces of this. They're going to go look at the structure of regular expressions. They're going to go look at character classes and sort of bracket expressions like repeatability and regular expressions and so forth. So we go start off with the fundamental structure. It's going to go look at a whole bunch of different things. So like dot, for example, matches any character, right? Question mark basically is the preceding item is optional, has to be, and will be matched at most once, right? So it may be matched once, but that's it, right? It doesn't have to be there. Asterisk, it matches 0 or more times. And it basically goes through the kind of things. The brackets with the n here, like for example, this is basically saying that the previous item is going to be matched exactly n number of times. So there's a whole bunch of these different options. You can go ahead and sort of put these together. And this is a really good, document to kind of go through and kind of play around with and learn. So that's the first thing. So this has been traditionally the hassle when it comes to regular expressions, is there's a lot to just memorize, right? So that's just talking about individual characters. And then we can go into sort of character classes. So we can go ahead and do things like, if we go down here, all num, right? So alphanumeric and, basically alphanumeric characters, basically combining the alpha subset and the digit subset. So we could go ahead and do something like look for a character in brackets, and then we could go ahead and do the curly braces and number of times repeating, things like that, to go ahead and show, how often we'll go see those things, right? So once you start putting these together, it becomes a really, really, really powerful tool. But again, it's a bit of a hassle because you got to memorize a lot of stuff. And, again, you always have the ability to go look at the info page on this and kind of go back and refer back to this later on. But it's one of those things that oftentimes people have a little bit of a difficult time picking up. So with PCRE, generally, instead of having these, alphanumeric and kind of bracket style ones, what they'll do is they'll do backslash and then something to indicate a type of character. So, so it'll be, send S for white space, right? So it's your string, right? Character. So there's nothing there, space for, or dash S for S. Dash or slash W for word, so forth and so on. So all these are really, really nice. You can also go ahead and look at Perl Doc, right? So if you're not familiar with Perl, you probably have it already installed, and Perl Doc has very, very, very extensive manuals, and the Perl documentation is phenomenal, right? It's been around for a really long time. It's really, really, really good. It was one of the cornerstones of the language, still is, but it's one of the cornerstones of the language, which makes it very easy for people to learn. So if we go do Perl Doc, PC or Perl RE, right? No, I don't have it installed. So, I'll just go ahead and pull up the actual ones on the Perl website. If I just do a search for Perl Doc, Perl RE, it'll go ahead and just come back, and we can go ahead and look at this on the website, which is a better place to look at it, honestly, because it's much more readable, and you can kind of go through the whole thing. If you read this document, it's a large document. If you read this document, at the end of it, you will A, know a little bit of Perl, which is great. And then B, you'll also know a lot about regular expressions. Right? So that's sort of the, the hard way to kind of do it, right? But it's, if you go through this and you play around with this a little bit and you kind of go through it, and you can see this is a pretty long document, all on just how to go match various different characters, right? This is a really, really useful tool. And this is part of what being a good sysadmin or sysengineer is. Even if you're not somebody who's going to be a programmer per se, you're still going to have to learn stuff. like learn complicated stuff. You know, one of the things I see in like the Reddit IT career forums and stuff like that, or you see people kind of wanting to get into IT and technology who are just you know, good at computers, right? So maybe they can build a computer, and they know what the different components are and things like that, and they can, you know, troubleshoot basic stuff. And I'm not knocking those skill sets. That those are like, that's the foundation that you need to kind of, you know, continue on to become somebody like a systems engineer or sysadmin. But one of the big pieces of it is you're going to need to deep dive into stuff. And so stuff like this is a good example. This is a very, very valuable skill. And, you know, even if it takes you a little while to kind of read through all this, that's still going to be time well spent, right? So I'm going to go stop scrolling because I'm still not, I'm just over halfway. So there's a lot of stuff in here, right? But one of the things that I find has made life significantly easier to anybody who's learning this now, and I wish this was around back in the day, is Regex101.com. And we had, you know, similar kind of stuff, but a lot of them were like actual applications. But what this is going to be is just a great little website that somebody put together. I don't know who actually did this, but they did a fantastic job. And I should probably actually go over here and donate at some point, because I point a lot of students to this, and it's a great way to go learn this kind of stuff. So this is basically looking at a couple different kinds of regular expressions, right? We've KCRE, ECMA script, which is for JavaScript, Python, and Golang. PCRE is probably the most common one, and most things are going to be compatible with PCRE, right? So if you go look at other kind of regex, they might be tweaked a little bit, but generally PCRE will work. So if I go up to PCRE, I'm going to just do an example that I do a lot of times. So let's say, for example, we're in an environment where we've got Windows users and we've got Unix users. And what we want to go do is we want to go consolidate, you know, the kind of standard for how we go ahead and do things, right? So we're logging in to our Linux machines with Kerberos principles. This is, again, not going to get into the whole, you know, aspect of that, but this is a fairly reasonable thing to go do, right? So if you go look at, you know, a you know, Windows environment, the kind of users you're going to have in a domain are going to be like domain/John Doe, right? Something like that. And we're going to have domain/foo bar, right? So let's say what we want to get down to over here is first name dot last name at domain, right? So we can go ahead and do is we can take this as input. This is our test string. So it's multiple here. And we can go ahead and see that we've got, this is going to be the output. So right now we're not doing anything to it, right? So it's going to be exactly the same as, you know, we put in there. So a couple things that they have here. There's a couple different regular expression options that we have set. So global and multi-line, right? So basically just, you know, don't quit out after the first match and then continue to the next few matches, right? So, you know, we'll look at multiple lines of this. Yeah. So you can go specify more there, but these are typically going to be after your regular expression, right? So you can see let's get the sort of syntax here. We've got the first slash, and then we get the second slash, and we get the stuff afterwards. Additionally, if you're doing this with like, you know, Perl, for example, before the first slash, you might have an indicator like an M to match something, which is a test to see if it matches, or you can also do a -s to substitute, right? So that's what we're going to be looking at here is sort of equivalent to a substitute as opposed to a match. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and just do dot. And you can see here that all of this has now been highlighted, right? So dot is basically any character matching, right? So alphanumeric, right? Pretty much anything. Right? So if I want to go ahead and have this repeat, I can go ahead and do dot plus, right? Remember before we had the ability to go ahead and do repeating matches, right? So plus just means repeat, you know, infinitely, right? So as many as we can. It's a greedy match. So the next thing we can go ahead and do is I could go ahead and do parentheses 4 if I wanted to do it that way. And that's going to go match 4 characters. That's the equivalent to the n number of times repeating that we saw there. So you could also do this as well. That's another way of doing it. It doesn't work there, but most people wouldn't do it that way anyway, right? So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go break this up into groups, right? And to do groups, we use parentheses, right? So I guess I am going to be teaching this a little bit, but not like an in-depth tutorial. This is sort of a really quick and dirty one, but it's a good place to start. So we'll do dot plus, and I'm going to go ahead and close my parentheses. So you can see the whole thing has now been put together into one group. And groups are useful because you can go refer to them later on. So here I'm going to go put a backslash, and backslash is a special character, right? That does things like /n for a new line, /t for a tab, /s for white space, and so forth and so on, right? So I probably don't want to match an actual, one of those. What I want to do is I want to match a literal slash. So what I can actually go do is I can use a slash as an escape character, and then I can go give slash again. So this is saying literally a slash, right? So now you can go see my first group goes all the way up to this slash. Right? We've limited what it's looking at, right? So now I can go ahead and try to go break this down further. So let's say, for example, our convention was first name, last name, right? That's pretty easy. So I can go ahead and do dot plus again here. I can do a space. I can do dot plus again there, right? And now I can go ahead and I can start working on some substitutions. And if you hover over this, it shows you the group number and things like that. So this becomes really nice. So here I can go ahead and do /2. So I can see I get the first name. I can put a dot there, /3. I can say at, right, 1.com, right, or whatever my domain is. And now I've got a more standard Kerberos principle. That's just one really quick example. That's something that I do a lot of just because we teach this as part of a way to kind of unify your user accounts in one of the classes I teach for NetApp. But this is, there's a bunch of different stuff you could go use for this. Matching email addresses and some text. That's another one that I do all the time. I have, I get rosters for my students, and, before I start a class, I've only got like 20, 30 minutes to go ahead and get everything prepped. I don't want to go ahead and manually go look for email addresses and copy them over. If I've got a class of 20 people, I've got a little script that reads the contents of, PDF, pulls out all the email addresses, and then, formats it according to, all of our login information stuff. So regular expressions are incredibly useful. They're definitely something that you guys should check out. If again, it's going to be a little bit of effort. One of the nice things about things that require a little bit of effort is if you're willing to put in that effort, that's going to put you in front of people who aren't, right? So just like learning a programming language, just like learning Linux, just like learning, Windows administration, if you're in that side of the world, if you're willing to put in the time and effort to learn this, these are things that differentiate you from other people who are not willing to learn those things, right? I mean, this is a really basic idea, but then those are reasons why you're worth more money, right? So regular expressions are incredibly useful. Take some time, check them out and learn them. Regex 101 is a great little website to go look at this. They'll save you, a whole bunch of time. Look at the info page for GREP. And then also go ahead and look at the Perl RE documentation, which is just literally just do a Google or a DuckDuckGo for a Perl space Perl RE or Perl Doc Perl RE. And if you have the Perl Doc documentation installed, which generally should be installed, that was on a server that I just happen to have the terminal open for. You can look it up there locally. So that's the idea. Thank you again so much for watching. Sorry that I missed the Wednesday video last week or this week. I had some other kind of stuff going on and just was not home to go ahead and record it. And just because of the previous week was a little bit off, so I figured that'd probably be good to skip one. It's been about, I think, 4 months that I've got the channel, and I don't think I've missed any so far. So, all right, 1 in 4 months, I'm allowed. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe if you're interested in this kind of content. Additionally, if you have suggestions for things that you guys would be interested in, topics that I can discuss, things that you're curious about in terms of IT career and the like, feel free to go ahead and let me know. I would love to hear from you. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one, and have a great rest of your week.